guys, welcome back. It's Shay from Styles for Days. I don't have on my shirt, unfortunately, but check me out on Instagram at Styles for Days and also on Facebook at Styles for Days as well. And as usual, my tutorials are long because I like to give a lot of detail that's usually left out on tutorials. Once again, they usually give you the ingredients and how to do it, but never really explaining all the other questions you may have. So today we are having the long-awaited Henny Pop tutorial. And as you know, I am dropping free tutorials. I'm getting to them as soon as I can. But the editing, I did not realize how much editing is involved. Plus, I have a pop-up shop coming up on Saturday of this week. This week, it'll be June 1st. So I am like super inundated. So my apologies for the long wait. But let's get right into the recipe. So this recipe calls for 10 cups of popcorn. And I have buttered popcorn because this sauce is caramel based, and like what's better than buttered popcorn for caramel? So can you use plain popcorn? Absolutely, that's fine. But the butter, I just like the taste and the flavor of it. And no, it's not a big, huge difference. So for some of you who are like more conscious about adding more butter and things like that, and you can use either. Okay, so then we have 1 cup of light brown sugar, as you can see. And no, it is not packed. So don't worry about packing it. It's not causing for that. It's just calling for 1 cup of light brown sugar. Then also we have 1 stick of unsalted butter. So the reason being for the unsalted is because 1, we have the salt on the popcorn. Even if you have plain, there's an ingredient for salt. And you don't want things to be so salty that it's overpowering. 1, the intended alcohol, and then 2, the caramel taste. And I just always cut my butter up in these smaller chunks because it's easier to dissolve. And even when I make cakes and stuff, they're usually small pieces like that because most cake recipes require you to drop, 1 bit at a time as you go and add in. Or, you want to make sure that it's consistently room temperature. So, that's what that is. And in this case, it does not matter whether it's room temperature or straight out the fridge. So that's 1 stick of unsalted butter. Then we call for a ½ teaspoon of salt, which I have here in my little measuring spoon. Then also a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. And I'm looking at my notes. So you guys who are following me and that will continue to follow me, when I'm looking off, I'm looking at my notes because like I said, I want to be very detailed. So I wrote every little bit thing down. And I will say that if you guys want printable versions of these things, please go and DM me at either of those handles I gave you, Facebook or Instagram, and I will get that to you. It is a fee for that. These are completely free, but for the printed version, it's a small fee, not none to be completely bent out about. So, hit me up if you need that. So again, this is a ½ teaspoon of salt, and this is 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. And I'm going to get into why we use the baking soda towards the end when I do the review. Then I also have 1/8 teaspoon cream of tartar. And I'll get into why this is a great ingredient as well. Not all of them calls for the cream of tartar. I like to use it. And the reason why will be at the end when I do the review. And then last but not least, 1 tablespoon of white corn syrup. And like I told you guys before, I always add just a little drop more because it's almost impossible to scrape every last little bit of the corn syrup out of whatever container you're using, and therefore I want to make sure my recipes are complete. In the event that your recipes fall short of certain ingredients, that is why you guys will experience a different result. These ingredients matter, having them exactly as they are stated. So be very careful when you're measuring. You want everything to be exact to the amount. Otherwise, you'll have all those resorts where you're like, oh, I tried all that, I did everything, but it didn't come out the same. Well, that's why. So with that being said, that's all the ingredients. Now, some things you'll need is something to stir with. I like these wood spatulas or whatever your spoons, whatever you will call them. So you'll see me with these all the time. I just love them, especially with caramel. And then a saucepan, as usual. You guys have probably seen this. This will be one of our close friends. And also parchment paper. And then, as you guys know, with most baking or any baking, to some degree, you're going to need a baking sheet. And in this case, you want to have two. My other one is over there. But you want to have 2 baking sheets. So I am going to pause right here. So for those of you that are following me, go ahead and pause and grab all of your ingredients. And we're going to meet back over at the stove. And the ingredients you want to take with you is basically everything except for the popcorn. Everything else is going with you. Oh, and I'm sorry. I have this container that I'm going to be using along with some other bags because this is actually for order. So this is just to show that, yeah, you do need something to store it in to keep it fresh as well. So yes, I'm going to go ahead and move over to the stove and I will meet you guys back at that point. Okay, you guys, now we're back at the stove, and what I added in the pot was the brown sugar, the butter, the corn syrup, the salt, and then also we're adding the cream of tartar. And I'll explain to you what all those ingredients do, including the baking soda, again, at the end for the review. So now what I'm going to do is turn my stove on. And as you guys know, I wear gloves for sanitary purposes. Not that you'll even be touching the caramel at all, but I just like wearing gloves. I'm a germaphobe. So anyway, we're going to bring this up to a boil, and at this point we'll just be fast forwarding. So I'm just going to stir this, which this recipe does require for you to stir it the entire time. Reason being, the sugar can stick to the bottom of the pot and cause it to burn. So with this particular sauce, you would want to constantly stir it. So you guys, at this point, this is the boil that you want to go for, but you also want to keep stirring so that it does not stick. Go ahead and set your timer for 4 minutes and keep stirring this for 4 minutes. And then I will be right back to tell you the last step right before we coat the popcorn. The last step.
How are y'all? Me too. Follow me on Instagram. Oh.
Of boil. So this is what it looks like. It looks kind of frothy. This is completely what it needs to look like. This color is fine. Keep stirring because it will stick. Now you're turning the heat off and move it off the heat. So that's what I'm doing, and I sit my pot on a trivet, and then you just kind of let that cool down a little bit. Let me turn off my timer. And then the last step would be to add the baking soda. Again, I'll explain why that's needed in a caramel sauce. And then also, last but not least, the whole reason why we're here, the Hennessy. And then don't be alarmed. It's going to bubble and smoke and make all that noise and sizzle up like that. That's fine. It smells so good. And it's going to look like it's seizing up, but just stir it. Just keep stirring it. Just keep stirring it. And then at this point, I did put a note that your oven should have been preheated to 250 with your baking sheets lined with the parchment paper. And so now we will allow this to cool maybe about a couple minutes, which will be enough time for you to get your bowl and your popcorn and everything to where it needs to be. And then we're going to drizzle. So we'll meet back at the counter. All right, you guys, so we removed it from heat. As you can see, I'm going to come a little closer. This is the end result of the syrup, the caramel syrup that you're making, or that's what I'm calling it. You can call it caramel sauce or whatever. So then you basically just take this and you pour it over the popcorn. This is always a part that everybody gets a little nervous about because you're like, this is going to make the popcorn soggy because it looks to be like a wet ingredient. So then all you do is just stir, and you keep stirring to coat all the popcorn. Side note, you guys, don't get nervous. I know how this looks. You're like, it's not going to cover it. It's not enough. Just keep stirring, and I promise you it will coat all 10 cups. And again, if you feel like you want to take some of the popcorn out that's already heavily coated to get it out of your way, because maybe you don't have a big enough bowl, then you're more than welcome to do that too. As for me, I like to just continue to stir the whole batch until everything is fully and completely coated. Okay, now you may have seen some of the Henny Pop that is a lighter color. Don't be alarmed with this color because I add more than
sticking to my gloves.
The regular recipe calls for package.
So as I do that, I'm putting it into this container.
8 tablespoons.
My second tray is right behind me, so I'm going to grab that.
Need about 3. So that's why the color is a little darker.
As I package this, I'm going to go into the review really quick. As you can see, I use milk thermometer,
just a little bit of time and patience, everything will be completely coated. And then now all you do is lay this out. And you have 2 of these, just so you have
that whole little nervous spell that you have when you're like, I don't know, it's going to make it soggy. As you can see, it's not the case. Very easy to break apart.
About 15 to 20 minutes.
Yes, no thermometer is needed. All you need is that 4 minutes, and it'll get it to the proper temperature. I'm sorry, you guys, I don't have the temperature that it normally should reach. I believe it's in the 200s. I'll look that up. So it may be below where I put the recipe and other notes. And so also, I told you guys about a few ingredients that I will let you know the whys at the end of the review. So the baking soda is for brownie and texture. Baking soda reacts with the acid, which is usually found in molasses, brown sugar, and corn syrup, to create tiny carbon dioxide air bubbles, hence the foaming. So you guys seen when I added that in there, not only did you see like the steam and stuff come up, but it actually looked like it foamed up. That was because of the baking soda. But it is very necessary because once it cools down, all the trapped air bubbles, they create a softer texture. And that makes it where it's soft and pliable versus hard like candy. So that's why caramel popcorn and things like that is not hard like suckers and stuff. Is because you add the baking soda and it gives more of a creamy texture. Then also, the cream of tartar. That's added because it will prevent the crystallization as the caramel cooks in the oven. So it stops it from drying out and basically disintegrating like on the sheet here. It's like little crystals and stuff like that, or a little small crystallization, but that prevents it. So some recipes you may see does not call for it, some do. I prefer this one because it really does matter. Also, any brown liquor, you can use any brown liquor for this. When I say brown liquids, I'm not talking about like beer or anything like that, but any of these, the tequilas, the brandies. This is also the one that I use for the Crown Royal, all of those. Just substitute it out. Also, once you taste it, if you feel as though it's not, the taste of alcohol is not enough for you, you can take a spray bottle, like a regular spray bottle that you would get for about $1, that you would spray like your plants or water for your hair or whatever you would use it for. But like the spray cleaning bottles, make sure you sanitize it properly though. And then you can take some of the liquor of choice, put it in there, and you can spray it over your popcorn and pop it back in the oven. And you can do that. You can also tweak with it, play around with it and see if you add, a couple tablespoons at a time until you get what's desired. If you add too much, it will not come up correct. So that's why I'm saying just kind of play around with it and see to your liking. So the whole purpose of this is to have a Hennessy infused taste, but not like you're drinking a straight shot. So that's the difference. Also, last but not least, you have to stir this. The reason why you have to stir this particular caramel, this is my notes, told you guys I wrote everything, is because you it'll burn. The sugar will settle to the bottom and it'll begin to burn. So that's why some caramel recipes
does not cause for you to stir. In fact, it tells you do not stir because it'll cause aeration, which will mess it up and make it even turn hard and seize up. So make sure that whatever other recipes that you're using for caramel based type things, you follow those recipes exactly. In this case, you do want to stir it. And as you can see, this is my half gallon size. So half of that 10-cup batch, which means that this is about 5 cups. Filled this up to about, well, almost to where I would. I'd probably grab another few pieces so that it's level and flush here. So I'm going to add that. Other than that, check the bottom for the recipe, my notes, everything. I'm very descriptive in the bottom. Leave a comment, subscribe, send your friends over here. Again, check me out on Instagram, Styles for Days, Facebook, Styles for Days as well. And I have plenty more tutorials coming, you guys. I have this pop-up shop, so after this weekend, I still have a lot of orders. However, I will definitely sit down and get into the editing for the rest of the tutorials. So, and the next one I'll do actually, which will probably be a real short, maybe 5 to 10 minute tutorial, will be the caramel pretzel rods. They're so super easy. People make it seem like it's a lot to it. It's a very easy thing to do unless you want to make your own caramel. So I will do it both ways. One with the caramel squares, and then I'll do the other one where I actually make my homemade caramel. And I'm not sure if I will release that recipe or not because it's like a family thing. But I will definitely go into me making my own caramel and cutting that up and then getting it to twist onto the pretzel rod. So again, thanks you guys for tuning in. This is Shay at Styles for Days. And I will be back for another tutorial. Thanks you guys for watching.
And scene.